Hello, I'm Colleen Pearl, the Cool Crone, and welcome back to my channel. This video will cover the astrology for all of 2022 for the sign of Leo. Hey Leo, it's your astrology video for 2022. I'm going to go over the slow-moving planets just very briefly because I already did a general astrology for 2022 that covered those planets in detail. I will go quickly through the slow planets for you, but then I will really get into the personal planets and what you can expect from those planets for the year of 2022. If you'd like a personal reading on your forecast for 2022 or just a natal astrology reading, my contact information is down below. Basically, you're just going to send me an email. That will start the process and we'll get you scheduled for that. All right, Leo, let's get into the astrology. So for the big events, I'm going to look at the slow-moving planets, and like I said, I've already done the detail in the general video for 2022, but I will touch on a few things here. So Leo, I just want you to realize that Pluto in Capricorn is going to be in your 6th house, and this is where it's been for quite some time, over 12 years. It's still there. It's going to be there for all of 2022. It's not going away anytime soon, but I do want you to keep in mind 24 degrees of Capricorn. That's going to be an important degree as we go through the year. A lot of various things, various planetary things are going to land on that degree, and you're going to find that it's really, really important. So if in your chart you have 24 degrees of Capricorn, I want you to circle it and try to remember it for the rest of the year. So now we're going to move on to Neptune. Neptune in Pisces is falling in your 8th house. This means that Neptune and Jupiter, by the way, are both going to be in your house for joint resources. Now, this house is also known as the house of sex, death, and taxes, as well as metaphysical topics, things having to do with transformation, secrets, the occult, the metaphysical. So there's a lot of things going on there that Neptune would really love in your 8th house. And Neptune is going to give you an intuitive view of all of those things. So an intuitive view of your finances, which may or may not be something you're comfortable with, Leo. But it will also give you an ability to ferret out information about metaphysical topics in an intuitive way. And that may be something that's more to your liking. All of the topics of the 8th house are going to be under the sway of Neptune in Pisces. So consult with professionals, take their advice, be a little bit careful. Neptune in Pisces is that culty aspect that allows you to be vulnerable, especially to manipulation and scams. So you want to be careful with Neptune in Pisces when it comes to your money, Leo, because you don't want to get taken advantage of. Uranus in Taurus is ruling your house for career, and it's been ruling that for several years. So Leo, I don't think I'm telling you anything new when I'm telling you that all of your focus in your career is going on what's happening today, because so many changes have happened to your career in the last 4 or 5 years. You do have Uranus and Taurus on the midheaven for your career. So your career is long-lasting, it's steady, it's strong, it's productive, it's persistent. But Uranus there is just throwing a lot of monkey wrenches in the works. So I wouldn't be surprised if you had changed the name of your company, or changed your career, or changed the focus of your career, and even changed it within the same company over the last 4 or 5 years. Then we come to Saturn square Uranus. The last exact square was December 24th, 2021, but the square remains in orb most of 2022. Saturn for you is sitting in your 7th house, and Uranus again is in your 10th house. So there could be some real stressors between your partner and your career, and yet you have to work them out. And the way to work them out is with communication. Now, squares always bring about events that are hard, that are challenging, that are forcing you into situations that you wouldn't normally choose, but that's what needs to happen with Uranus. You do need to break out of the box and do something new. So don't resist it too awfully much, Leo. Allow yourself to be a little bit more like either Virgo or Cancer, the signs on either side of you, and don't be so rigid in your choices. The gifts that Saturn promises are great and they are worth waiting for. And also, when it comes to your relationships, Leo, I don't think that you're somebody that really wants to hop around from relationship to relationship. So it's worth hanging in there and working through the Saturn-Uranus square. You may find that by accepting something new, by accepting the future, by accepting choices that you didn't make, you really allow the relationship to grow. And you allow yourself to grow. And that could be really, really an amazing thing. And don't forget, you do have Neptune in the 8th house, which means that spiritually you're destined to grow this year anyway. Now let's talk about the personal planets. And the first personal planet we're going to talk about is Mercury. So Mercury goes retrograde from the air to the earth signs. I talk about this a little bit in the general video, but I'll reiterate it here because it is a very personal planet. Mercury retrograding from air to earth. It's going to retrograde at the midpoint of January in Aquarius at 10 degrees 19, all the way back to 24 degrees 23 minutes of Capricorn. When Mercury is in Aquarius, it's asking the big questions. How do we feed the masses? How do we eliminate world hunger? How do we stop wars? Mercury in Aquarius is going to ask all sorts of questions that perhaps there are no hard and fast answers to, but it wants to know anyway. Once Mercury moves back into Capricorn, it will be much more concerned with repairs and analyzation and fixing things and doing things that produce tangible results. That's what earth signs want. And even earth signs with a Mercury retrograde going through them is going to want to have some kind of a product at the end of the day. In May, we have Mercury retrograding in Gemini back into Taurus. It starts at 4 degrees 51 minutes Gemini on May 10th and goes all the way back to 26 degrees 5 minutes Taurus on June 3rd. Gemini Mercury retrograde causes one to ask a lot of questions and to ask about learning. How do you learn? What do you learn? What do you want to learn? What was the last thing you learned? And then moving into Taurus, again, we're going to have a much more practical, down-to-earth approach to communications. Stay for dinner. Why won't you stay for dinner? I've cooked you dinner. You want to stay at my house for dinner? Here's the best chair. This is a comfortable chair. Why don't you like it? There's going to be a lot of conversation and a lot of confusion and a lot of reciprocation. So Mercury retrograde doesn't have to be an awful time. It can be a pretty good time. You just have to know how to work with it. So in September, we have Mercury retrograding in Libra from 8 degrees 55 minutes back to 24 degrees 13 of Virgo on the 2nd of October. When Mercury is retrograde in Libra, you're going to have somebody there who wants to negotiate everything. So they want to do arbitration, mediation, diplomacy. They want to talk, and negotiate, never coming to any hard and fast conclusions or decisions. Once Mercury goes into Virgo, you may have more of a propensity to actually land on decisions, but again, you're going to spend your time fixing things, sewing, doing handicrafts, knitting, crocheting, etc., or fixing things around the house, fixing a doorknob, fixing the light, fixing a lamp, etc. Both Taurus and Virgo, I think, also will focus quite a bit on cooking and, cooking healthy foods, healing with foods. That's another Mercury retrograde activity that I think they might participate in. And then 2 days before the very end of the year, we have Mercury retrograde again, and that is in Capricorn. It starts at 24 degrees 21 minutes and goes all the way back to 8 degrees 9 minutes, but that isn't until January 18th of 2023. So that's nice. Now let's talk about Venus. Venus starts the year retrograde in Capricorn, and we have to remember that Capricorn is an earth sign and it's going to be trining Uranus in Taurus. So Uranus in Taurus is in an earth sign and Venus is in an earth sign. So we're going to find all sorts of surprising and inspiring and interesting and unusual creatures, people, siblings, lovers, husbands, wives, when we're going through this Venus retrograde in Capricorn. There's going to be a lot of a real cast of characters that comes across during this Venus in retrograde. Once Venus is out of retrograde, we will find that she moves pretty quickly through the rest of the zodiac. So She actually stays in Capricorn when she's direct until early March. So end of January she turns direct, but she stays in Capricorn until early March. And then through quick succession, she goes through the other signs of the zodiac, ending up in Capricorn at the end of the year. So she makes it through all 12 signs, well 13 really, because she ends up again in Capricorn, which is very, very fun and interesting for Venus. So that Capricorn energy is really going to get emphasized during 2022, especially by Venus. Mars retrogrades this year as well. We did not have a Mars retrograde last year. It usually only retrogrades every second or third year. So Mars is going to retrograde at the exact same points that Venus had a retrograde in 2020. So if you recall that period, you might want to look back in your diary and see what areas of your life were affected when Venus was retrograde in 2020, because that's where Mars is going to retrograde in 2022. And you may find it's the same area of life, but it's a little bit different energy, because the Mars energy is not the Venus energy. Mars will retrograde on October 30th at 25 degrees Gemini and move all the way back to 8 degrees of Gemini, but not until January of 2023. So it's a fairly long retrograde period for Mars, quite a bit longer than Venus's retrograde period, much longer than Mercury's retrograde period. Mars during the year starts out in Sagittarius, so it's a party Mars. It's a Mars that takes your energy, gets you all drunk and hungover, and then you probably can't do anything for a couple of weeks. So I'd be very careful about getting too out there with Mars and Sagittarius. If you are partying, then I would, pull it back quite a bit. Otherwise you won't be able to function when you're not at a party. But don't forget that Sagittarius is also the judge and the sage. So he's not always partying. So sometimes Mars in Sagittarius has to be the lawmaker rather than the lawbreaker. And Mars in Sagittarius is going to think about the law and lay down the law wherever it sees fit. At the end of January, he moves into Capricorn for 2 months. Then he zips through Pisces and lands in Aries for a couple of months, then about 2 months in Taurus. Then he goes into Gemini for a couple of months, and he basically stays there for through the end of the year. So Mars is really going, but doesn't go very far. Usually Mars will get a little farther than this during the year. This year he only gets through half the signs, but that's not it's not highly unusual at all. Jupiter in Pisces and moving into Aries. So Jupiter in Pisces is also going to fall in your 8th house. And Leo, this is really good for your 8th house because this means you're going to get some kind of a boost in the joint resources area. Now, you've had Pisces there. Hopefully you're not listening to any sort of crackpot theories about how to get rich quick and put it in your 401k and you can double it, nothing like that. But you do want to consult experts. I just want to say that again over and over because it's so important that you not allow that Neptune Pisces energy carry you away into some wild conspiracy theory land. You want to trust reliable experts. I mean, even experts, you got to be careful picking the experts. So make sure that somebody is helping you pick the experts that really has expertise in that area. Having Jupiter in your 8th house, like I said, means that things are going to enlarge and expand and be lucky. Now, if you're using that for increasing your wealth, that's exactly what it's for. That's exactly what Jupiter is there for. If you're using it to increase your abilities to understand metaphysical subject, that's also what it's there for. If you're using it to transform yourself, that's an excellent use of the energy as well. But there's no reason, Leo, why you can't use it for all three. You don't have to limit yourself. While you've got that energy, that planetary energy going for you in a particular house, use the energy to the maximum amount that you are able. In May, Jupiter is going to dip its toe into Aries until about October. So we're going to have about 5 months where Jupiter is actually in Aries, and that's when we're going to probably see new leaders emerge. And you may even find yourself, you're a fire sign, Aries is a fire sign, so it's going to trine you, either your rising sign or your sun or moon, So it's going to give you a feeling of, why not me? Why can't I do it? And you may find that you throw your hat in the ring to be the leader. On April 10th, Jupiter will conjunct Neptune in Pisces, and that's why we see them so closely aligned in your 8th house. So that's going to be a really stellar day, and probably it will last for a couple of weeks. This period where Jupiter and Neptune are sort of married in the sky is really, really powerful. It's good for humanity. It's good for us as a society. It's good for us as a country. And it's really going to help people come together and understand that we are all one and we have to march into the future together. Jupiter retrogrades in, I believe it's October, and that's when he begins to move backwards in the sky and gets back to the sign of Pisces, where he remains for most of the rest of the year. And then at the very, very, very end of the year, Jupiter makes it into 1 degree of Aries. So there is a lot of Jupiter Pisces energy during this year. There are a few months in the middle of the year where we feel Jupiter in Aries, which isn't bad. It's a great energy. It's a different energy than Jupiter in Pisces. But when we feel it, we know it, and we want to be leaders when we feel it. Also, Jupiter is going to be, when it's retrograde in Aries, it's going to be opposite Venus in Libra. Venus in Libra tends to focus on the other. So Jupiter retrograde tends to build up energy, and Jupiter retrograde in Aries is going to build up bullying energy. Now, Venus in Libra does not want the bullying energy at all. It just is not about that whatsoever. So I'm going to say I really hope that Jupiter will not bully Venus in Libra, and I really hope that Jupiter in Aries opposing Venus in Libra will be able to bring out some really good qualities in people. As the Jupiter energy builds up, something that you can do to disperse that energy and siphon it off into a positive action would be to use that energy for volunteering, use that energy for giving to others, use that energy for, reaching a hand out to help somebody up, rather than competing with them, or rather than certainly putting them down in any way. Saturn in Aquarius in general is going to only move about 10 degrees this year because of the retrograde in June. So we begin the year with Saturn at 12 degrees Aquarius. It retrogrades in June at 25 degrees Aquarius, and it goes back all the way to 18 degrees of Aquarius, and it ends the year at 22 degrees Aquarius, which means that over the course of the year, Saturn really only moves about 10 degrees in the sign of Aquarius. So you will also want to circle where is that portion of your chart that has 12 to 22 degrees of Aquarius, because that's going to become very, very, very important in 2022 for you. Now, even though Saturn is thought of as a restrictive planet, I just want to explain what the energy will be like while Saturn is in Aquarius. It's your opposite sign, Leo, so I think it's important for you to understand this. Saturn's going to be in your 7th house for partnership, if this is your rising sign, and it may feel at times like you are being restricted, but Saturn promises a gift. If you can get through the discipline and the focus and cohesion that Saturn offers, and you learn the lessons of Saturn, Saturn will reward you tenfold. So hang in there. Don't resist Saturn's energies. Allow yourself to use Saturn's energies, which are to work hard, be persistent, be determined, be focused, be restrictive, but you can control what kind of restriction you put on things. Be a builder. Saturn is a builder, so Saturn likes to build things up as well as restrict things. So while Saturn may build the box and try to put you in it, what you can do is build a series of boxes and go through them. It's all in your perspective, and if you use the energy rather than resist the energy, you will be much better off. All right, then we come to April 30th when we have a solar eclipse. All the solar eclipses this year are either going to be in Taurus or Scorpio because the nodes have changed. So this on April 30th will be about 10 degrees Taurus, which is where Uranus is as well. So it's going to be a wonderful eclipse. It's going to be very, very helpful. And for you, Leo, excuse me, with Uranus is in Taurus, this is going to be tricky for you because it's going to square you. If you have Leo rising, it's going to square you. If you have Sun or Moon, it's still going to square those sensitive points. So I want you to be careful with this. I want you to understand that you can work with the energy or you can work against it. If you're just in a resistant mode and you want to work against it, hey, knock yourself out. But if you're in a situation where you want to use the energy to get somewhere with it, then you have to figure out how to use the energy. So remember that Uranus is inspiration, it's eclectic, it's unique or wants to be unique. It has to do with the liberties and freedoms and uniqueness of the individual. And it also has to do with benefiting the masses, benefiting everybody rather than only one person, and freedom and innovation, inspiration. Saturn has to do with a lot of those things that are going to sound like the opposite. It has to do with construction, restriction, responsibility, obligation, crystal focus, age, maturity, time. So you have to look at all of the attributes of both planets and then put that together and try to come up for yourself with the way you want to work with the energies. And I'm telling you that you can work with the energies, and if you do, you have a great reward at the end of the year. Yeah, you're not going to get that reward right away. You're going to get it at the end of the year. This solar eclipse, however, is really important, and it does have the potential for creating life-altering changes within your life. So be sure to hit watch the video that I'm going to do about that solar eclipse. And in the meantime, that's what I have to say to you, Leo. Please leave me some comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. I really enjoy doing these videos. I hope that you will leave me a comment and let me know how the reading hit you. And don't forget to watch the general video about 2022, as well as any other videos about your sun, moon, or rising. All right, thanks very much, Leo, and I'll see you next time.